they're just going for the easy conventional stuff. So Russia is so powerful, and the emerging markets have realized that with Russia, it's about business. There's no political agenda. There's no moral, religious agenda. The Russians want to do business with China, and then that's the deal. And now they're pushed together. Dealing with the Americans, look, Germany's realized the spying events that's happened under Obama's administration. The Chinese have realized it. And, unfortunately, all of this has come to fruition. And the failed foreign policy has proven to be worse than we all expected it would be. So America, unfortunately, has painted itself in a corner, and really it's going to need another leader like a Reagan type, someone to get Americans behind their leader to take on the emerging markets, which have very strong leadership led by Putin.
I think it's going to require somebody who is going to repudiate our surveillance state, the idea that we have a hegemonic claim on everybody's information. I think that has left a stench on the American government that is not going to be erased until we do something very visible, very tangible to pull that back out. I want to talk about another area, and that, of course, is Africa. And we saw the Bilderberg Group a couple of years ago talking about how their big pushes were going to be big data. That was before we saw the Ed Snowden leaks, and also Africa. And we see AFRICOM being created as recently as 2007. So the U.S. is definitely interested in the natural resources of Africa. But of course, Putin, who bases all of his plans on natural resources, is very interested in Africa. Talk about that.
Oh, definitely. And it's with the Chinese. The Russian and Chinese are working together, and they are literally 2 decades ahead of America when it comes to the infrastructure, the deposits. The largest onshore oil discovery in the world in the last decades was a company Doug Casey and I were involved with, and they proved up, billions of barrels of oil on eastern Africa and Kenya. It's called the East African Rift. And ironically, when you go there, it literally looked like a pic out of a James Bond movie where they're all wearing their orange overalls and they're happy to work, and they're all Asians. You don't see North American companies working there. It's all Russian and Chinese drillers, Russian and Chinese geophysics. China's been there. They're going to write the infrastructure checks. They're moving forward for the development because it's about a secure supply. And the Russians and Chinese are planning for 20, 30, 40 years out to keep their economies going.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, we had Obama go and make his agreement with China that we were going to, over 11 years, cut our energy use by 25%, but China is going to be allowed to continue to expand for 16 years unabated, at which point they won't have a cut, but they'll have a cap. It's okay for them under, I guess we're not concerned about global warming. It's only a concern when it is something that is generated by the U.S. or Western governments.
It's ironic. You bring up a brilliant point here that reminded me. During the APEC conference, Obama made a big deal about the CO2 contracts and, the limitations. And in our Western media, they really try to portray Obama as a true foreign icon with his presidency. If you read the Chinese papers, it was almost a mockery where the Xi Jinping, the president of China, came out and said, "Look, Obama, calm down, Tiger. You fill a sea by drops at a time. We're still in drops here. Take your time. Let's not make a big deal out of this contract." But from the Western media, the APEC conference was all about this, agreement where the Chinese kind of completely thought nothing of it.
I guess that's one of the things that really strikes me about your book, Marin, and that is the fact that Putin is very methodical, taking a long view, not only just for himself, but also for his country. He's actually doing things to help Russia. It's not in America's best interest, the things that he's doing, but he's actually working to help his country, whereas we have leaders who look to be actively undermining, actively trying to bankrupt our country, whether it's with open borders and a Cloward and Piven strategy, or whether it's taking down our energy production or taxing away our energy use. It seems like our own government is our worst enemy. But let's talk about one of your final chapters. I think it is your final chapter here, Post-Petrodollar America. You point out that the decline of the British pound took 30 years and 2 world wars, and to unwind the empire took longer. Is that going to happen with the United States? Or maybe, as you think, there's going to be factors that argue that the undoing of the dollar will be very abrupt and very disturbing. Tell us how you think that's going to play out and why you think that's going to be abrupt and massive.
It's going to be very disturbing for those who are not prepared and protected. You need insurance, whether you have health insurance or car insurance. You never plan on using it, but when you need it, that's when you want it. And it's all about preparing and basically preventing being exposed to the derivative defaults, the collapse of the petrodollar. And it's actually quite simple to do so. Number one, live within your means and stay out of massive debt and don't leverage yourself. Number two, have a little bit of gold exposure, physical gold, because that is an insurance hedge to a depreciating dollar. Now, everyone in Wall Street is talking about how great the US dollar is. That's exactly when you need insurance, when you're driving 200 kilometers or 150 miles per hour with your top down, thinking about great of the day. You know, you need to have that insurance. So that's the first place to start. And then we get into different aspects. But, you know, when the petrodollar collapses, and it will, and every empire collapses, literally the average way of life for the American is going to be cut in half overnight. And everyone's going to sit there and going, what happened? Except those who are prepared for it.
And as you point out, we have the world's largest military. We've taken a hit in most other aspects of our productivity. We've had our manufacturing base decimated, yet we have a massive military. And of course, when people see their lifestyle cut in half, as you just mentioned, they're going to look for an enemy outside of the country, and that's when things are going to get hot. Stay with us. We're going to one more segment with Marin, and he'll be right back with his book, The Colder War.
This hour brought to you by InfidelBodyArmor.com. When it hits the fan, don't be left without the body armor that will save your life. With prices starting at just $374.99 and ships free. Get yours at InfidelBodyArmor.com. Just won't quit.
Hi, Ted Anderson with Midas Resources. Is it time to convert paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver yet? Get our 10 Reasons book free. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
2015 is almost here, and with it comes those New Year's resolutions to finally transform your body the way you want it. There's a reason over 88% of New Year's resolutions fail. Make this year different by equipping yourself with Oxy Powder, the next level in cleansing the body naturally. Using super oxygenation, Oxy Powder, available through InfoWarsLife.com, gently cleanses the body while you sleep with easy capsules. InfoWars Nightly News Director Rob Dew has been using Oxy Powder with incredible success.
Took it that first day, and then I took it for 6 more days after that. 12 pounds melted off in about a week. I'd say a week, 7 days. And I've been able to keep it off, too. My wife was like, wow, you look really good. And I'm like, I know. I guess it's this Oxy Powder.
2015 can be different. Diet and exercise are important, but a lot of us have already tried that. Oxy Powder flushes it out. Secure your Oxy Powder at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139.
This is a serious topic for all men. Every single man listening may have a prostate problem if he lives long enough. That's right. All of us men may suffer from a prostate problem, like urinating more often, waking at night to urinate, or problems with intimacy. That's why every man needs to call for a free bottle of Super Beta Prostate, a non-prescription formula guaranteed to reduce the symptoms of your enlarged prostate. It's free. Pay only shipping and handling. Just call 1-800-964-7470. Prostate problems may not be an issue of if. They can be an issue of when. Super Beta Prostate's ingredient is clinically shown to reduce urges to urinate, reduce waking at night to go, and help improve intimacy. Call for your free bottle. Just call 1-800-964-7470. That's 1-800-964-7470. Call 1-800-964-7470.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and we're talking to Marin Katusa of Casey Research and his book, The Colder War. I would highly recommend this book. It's a very interesting read. Any student of history or politics, anybody who wants to get an understanding of what I think are are things that are on the horizon. We've seen a lot of very ominous signs. We've seen Russia's central bank hiking key interest rates in just the last day or so to 17%. That's their interest rate. They've seen their currency tumble by 20%. We see Goldman Sachs, this is a headline up on Infowars.com, Goldman Sachs says oil prices can go lower for much longer, and that the oil prices reveal cracks in our economy. Of course, even though we see cheap oil, we're not seeing the economy responding to this. It's still laying there, not doing anything. But the Saudis are going to keep producing, and that is something that is aimed directly at American production and independence of oil. It also is something that is hurting Russia. And of course, Vladimir Putin is determined to use his alliances to destroy the petrodollar, or essentially our reserve currency. Now, one of the things that you have here in your post-petrodollar chapter here, Marin, is called the bomb in your basement. We talked at the beginning of the hour, we talked about how Putin rose to power with false flags, bombs being placed in apartment buildings and taking out the entire apartment buildings. But this is a bomb that is in the basement of everybody here. You mentioned some things that people can do individually to prepare, but the derivatives that we are now on the hook, just a week or so ago when they came up with this budget from Boehner and the Democrats, putting Americans on the hook to ensure the derivatives that the banks have set up. Talk about the scope of that and what can happen as that blows up.
It is so risky. I'm shocked that the media hasn't talked more about this. This individual piece of legislation is essentially the world's strongest economic weapon of mass destruction that has been created ever.
Yes.
The risks across the board to your pension funds, to the government from the state to federal level. This truly is a shocking element. And yet, who does the government put the blame on? On the working class citizen who's going to have to write unlimited checks. Who's regulating these derivative markets? People don't even understand. I used to teach calculus in a university. These derivative markets are so complex that my colleagues who are PhDs in calculus don't understand this stuff. It's a bunch of maverick bankers who have the Washington in their back pocket, and they basically have carte blanche here. This is a huge risk.
It's very annoying because they're not producing anything. They're basically shutting down in a war on people who actually produce manufactured goods, people who produce energy. Those are the bad guys. And yet the guys who come up with these artificial constructs, as you said, these complex derivatives that are not tied to anything, they're not producing anything that anyone can use. It's merely a scam from these large banks. They're the ones who are now going to get protection. And we saw at the same time that they moved the derivatives to get FDIC protection, they also started making some moves to say that they can come after pensions and the commitments that have been made by private corporations to their employees for a long period of time. The handwriting is on the wall. They're coming after the entire enchilada. They're coming after the wealth of individual Americans as well as our energy independence, aren't they?
Well, Obama's not just at war with the savers and workers of America. He's doing more for the foreigners like Putin. Putin couldn't have a better ally running America, and they're at war together. So Obama's doing everything wrong for the average working class, hardworking American. And this is going to come back. And it's ironic that, Obama's all about, the average American. Well, he's going to need more than hope for this. This is going to be a true disaster.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us. It is an excellent book. It is a real page turner. Guys, you can get a clip of all the different tabs that I put in here. I wish I had time to cover everything that we have. You can see all those different tabs. I wish I had time to cover all the information that's in here. Get this book, read it. It will really enhance your understanding of the background behind this. Thank you so much. Marin Katusa, The Colder War, available from Casey Research. We'll be right back and we'll take your calls.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
The government's Department of Homeland Security is buying up loads of ammo. At the same time, they're restricting civilians' rights to own and purchase firearms. Can you put two and two together? Infidel Body Armor can stop every round, including hollow points and .308 sniper rounds, is reasonably priced and fully legal. But for how long? Go to InfidelBodyArmor.com, spelled INFIDEL bodyarmor.com. Infidel Body Armor. Just won't quit.
The average person's life is filled with unexpected challenges. Unlock the energy it takes to defeat these daily beasts with Super Male or Super Female Vitality, specifically designed to assist the body in regulating proper hormone balance to create superior vitality in males and females. Supercharge and conquer your world at InfoWarsLife.com or call 1-888-253-3139.